you struggle to feel your glutes, don't worry, I'm going to give you the exercises and the drills to help bring them back online. Number one, we're literally going to just start with squeezing our glutes, not just with our hands, but we're trying to squeeze them and feel what it's like to get a contraction going on at the glutes. Now, first one to try, are you able to actually squeeze your left glute by itself? And then are you able to try squeezing the right glute by itself as well? You want to have this control that you're able to squeeze one at a time or both together. Now, to improve the strength of your glutes and the awareness with the glutes as well, what you can do is point your feet outwards and go a little touch wider, and then try and squeeze your glutes again, and you'll feel with the hips slightly externally rotated that you can get a little more squeeze there. So with the feet out like this, you get more juice. Now, what I want you to try and do, we're going to take our hand, we're going to close our fist like this, and then as I count, we're going to squeeze a little bit. So when I say 1, squeeze a little bit, 2, squeeze a little bit, 3, squeeze a little bit, 4, squeeze a little bit. Now you're going to try and squeeze as hard as you physically can and feel what that's like, and then now squeeze a little touch harder, and then squeeze a little touch harder again, and then relax. If you did it right, your fingers should feel quite stiff. You can do that with the glutes too. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and squeeze 1, squeeze 2, squeeze 3, squeeze 4, and then now squeeze as hard as you can. And then squeeze a little touch harder, and then squeeze a little touch harder again. And relax it off, shake it off as well. So you can gradually increase tension, and that's something you can practice over time and get better at too. Then we want to take that to slightly different positions and take it into exercises as well, so you can actually feel your glutes as you go through the movements. Next up, we're going to try and bring that into our glute bridge. So you've probably seen these before, but a lot of people do them wrong because they're just lifting their hips and squeezing their bum at the top a little bit. What we've got to try and get into it is that maximal contraction, but through the entire rep. This is what we teach in the simplistic mobility method. So we go up to our top position, we squeeze our glutes, and then we go for our 1, 2, 3, 4. From here, my legs are shaking even more. I really feel that contraction. Now, some of you right now are going to be going, my hamstrings are starting to cramp, or I only feel it in my quads. This is really important to start playing around with different positions. If you feel your hamstrings are starting to cramp, then literally imagine you're pushing your feet away from you like this. So while you're up like that, if you push your feet away from you as if your feet would go like that, if the ground wasn't there, that'll disengage your hamstrings for you, so you can just focus more on the glutes. If you wanted to feel your hamstrings more, you can actually pull inwards like that. So if I pull in, I will feel my hamstrings more. But this is what it comes to when we're talking about awareness. We want to predominantly feel our glutes. To extend the hips, a lot of muscles are going to be involved, but if it's called a glute bridge, we predominantly want to feel the glutes. So we go back up, we squeeze as hard as we can, we squeeze a wee bit harder. Now we try and keep that contraction as we lower the hips down. As you lower your hips down, it won't feel as strong. Your legs will start feeling a little shaky, and then you should be using your glutes to extend your hips on the way back up again. Again, poke yourself, whatever it is that you need to do, and try and get yourself more aware of your glutes. So this is really hard to do when you first try, and if you really find you're not feeling much like this, then change the foot position. Glutes need to work in loads of different positions, so there's not actually a perfect place to put the feet. We want multiple angles. Joints can move in multiple angles, especially the hip joints, so we actually want to put ourselves into wider positions and point the feet out as well. From here, again, up is top, so squeeze as hard as you can, squeeze a little touch harder, and then try and slowly lower down again, and then go back up. And if you start to feel like you're starting to cramp, that's a good thing. The muscles don't know what to do in this position, so you gotta hang out there and you gotta get it to work. So if your hips do start to cramp, just shake it off, come up, say your favorite swear word, and then actually when it eases off, go right back into that position again and start to get your body to figure it out. So cramps aren't a bad thing, it's just the muscles learning. So again, different foot positions, and the more you work in this, the more you can play with it. You can go even with feet right beside each other and see what it's like to go like that. You'll feel it in different areas. And then even a staggered stance, and staggered stance the other way, or even a super wide with the legs coming in. So a little bit of hip internal rotation here as well. So that's what we're going to get into next. working your glutes in different positions. So it's all very well and good if you're able to engage your glutes in a glute bridge, but if it doesn't come over to your training movements, then it's not very helpful. So next thing that we want to try is trying to get this into our hinge position. So the hips go back and away like this. And what I want you to try and feel is that you're trying to load your hips rather than just pushing your hips back and away like this. So if you just try pushing back, you'll maybe feel a bit of a stretch in the hamstrings, and if you're keeping the back straight, it looks fine. But what we ultimately want to feel is that if we give ourselves a little bit of a squeeze first, and then try and push back into the hips, trying to keep a bit of a squeeze, now the hips are shaking a little bit. Now we're actually feeling things working, even feeling more activation down at the feet here. And from here, you imagine you're trying to do that maximal squeeze, even at this back position here. So if you can squeeze your bum when you're like this, but you can't engage it from here, then it's all lower back, and we don't want that. So from here, try and go back into that hinge position and try and squeeze your glutes when you're there as well. And you should almost feel like you need to do something in that position. So we try and get that squeeze, that maximal squeeze. So it's now as if we're trying to do that glute bridge we're doing on the floor, but standing up as well. So you should feel more tension in your hips, and you should feel more activation going on as you do that as well. So this is what you want your deadlift finish position to be like, essentially. So if you're picking a barbell up from the floor, when you get to here, it should be that boom, drive of the glutes, rather than an arch of the lower back, essentially. So that's for our deadlift position. Next thing we want to work on is our lunge. So you're going to go into a lunge position, and for a lot of people, they actually just put all the weight on the other side leg, and everything just goes into the knee, and then they push through the knee to bring themselves up. So it's like, I don't feel my glutes when I'm doing exercises. You can accidentally push through the joints rather than loading the muscles. So what we do is we slow things down. So we actually practice trying to squeeze, even though the leg is here in front, we try and squeeze the glute, and we slowly lower ourselves down. Imagine the weight is between both legs. So from here now, I should feel the glute muscles actually stretched out, and my hip should even feel tighter. If you get muscle activation right, the hip should feel tighter. Then from here, I squeeze to bring myself back up. And practice in a few different positions. Can you go halfway down and practice squeezing when you're there in that position? And then lower yourself down and practice squeezing at that bottom position. And then that almost squeeze to bring yourself back up. Now, that being said, you don't need to do this all of the time when you're training. It's just a good thing to have a mobility session that you break this down, try and give yourself better awareness, then it will carry over. Your brain will know, oh, this is better, so it will just do it automatically for you. But if you go through this process, you will find a lot of training movements feel a lot better to you, and how you feel after training will work as well. A big issue for people when they squat is they almost get caught up going too far down, and they lose the glutes. So on the way back up, it's almost like it's all spine movement, and then the hips come into play afterwards. So the way to work on that is actually use something to hold on to, that you can work on trying to feel your glutes in that bottom position. So whenever I'm going down here and even trying to rest down a little bit, if I then practice that squeeze from the bottom, you should see that I start to actually rise up because of that squeeze. Again, it's not something you need to consciously think about, but the more you practice this, the more things will start to engage. Then when you get the hang of it with holding on, you then try and take that back to here, and then see, can you practice squeezing and getting more tension in the bottom position. Now, all of this being said, if you have limited hip flexibility, that is going to hinder your ability to be able to engage your glutes as well. If your hip extension is limited, if you've got tight hip flexors, then that literally means you're not going to be extending the hips fully, which means you're running around with half an ass. You're not able to engage your glutes fully. If you're limited with your internal and external rotation as well, that can mean instead of when you're doing exercises that the hip joint feels like it's got nice loads of space, the muscles are able to be stretched out really well, and everything's able to work properly. It means that you're just going to go flump and run into the joint itself, so the muscles aren't going to get stretched out enough, and you can even have hip pain or back pain over time because the joint is taking the load rather than the muscles. Final one that I want to cover with you is in the 90-90 position. So as I said with the glute bridges, we want to make sure that we're working our glutes in different positions. Working your glutes in internal rotation is often missed. A lot of exercises are all out the way in external rotation. So by working on this back leg here in internal rotation, by having my hands down like this, so wherever you need to lean to, that you can lift the leg up and press it back is great. And over time, the further, more upright you can get, the more challenging it's going to be on the outer hip as well. So remember, all of this stuff here all needs work. So the more positions you can work them in, the better, and it makes other training movements better as well. So the pushback by itself, 90-90 pushback, is lifting that back leg and pressing back as if you were pressing into something. And you want to see, can you try and get that same squeeze with the glutes without the hamstrings joining in? If it does, shake it off, say your second favorite swear word, and then get straight back into it again. If you're really struggling to feel anything, then scoot yourself back and press into something behind you. So your sofa or a wall, something that you can actively press into as if you were pressing into the glute bridge on the floor like that. You can work on pressing in like that and even lift up and push a little bit higher, and it'll feel really crampy up at the hips. If you've got a resistance band, this is a really nice one that I love in Stability Builder, is that you put it around your foot and then hold it where you get a bit of tension, and then you can actually use the band to give you a bit of feedback as you're pressing back too. So I kind of just block the elbow in at the hip and I press back like that. If it's too easy, I grab a little bit higher up the band and I press back that way. And if you feel okay, you can try and do it with both hands off the floor as well. So it's going to challenge your hip flexibility, but also the glutes too. So always remember, practice working on your squeeze, your maximal squeeze. Practice your glute bridges in different positions. Try and get it into your training movements too, and then make sure you're adding in different glute exercises at different angles, and that'll keep your glutes feeling much happier. Let me know in the comments if you finally got your glutes coming back online, and if there's anything else that you'd like me to cover, just leave a comment below and I'll do my best to give you some things to work on. If you want to work on your full body flexibility, stability, mobility and feel amazing, then check out the Simplistic Mobility Method at tommorrison.uk.